Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Happy Monday ladies and gentlemen, and Merry Christmas. Do not ignore this warning because the Federal Reserve is between a rock and a hard place. And this is happening right now, ladies and gentlemen. It's something that we need to prepare for. What I'm going to talk about right now is not just for investors. I'm going to bring it down to the personal level. All right, I'm going to talk about something, and Mr. Peter Schiff, he just had a great interview that I would like to dissect with all of you, but he's talking mainly about investors. And no, that's not what we have to worry about, because the average American out there is not an investor. The average American is working a job, trying to put food on their table, and how is what is coming going to affect you? Lately, I've been talking a lot about the Federal Reserve being between a rock and a hard place, meaning that no matter what they do, they are not going to control inflation. It's only going to get worse, even if they bring rates down, because people don't understand what inflation is. Inflation is when you add money to the system. So therefore, if there's more money circulating in the system, things are going to cost more. Sure, we have natural events that cause shortages and things like that that make things go up and down in price. But the key word is things go up and down in price, not everything. When you have inflation in prices, it's because everything is going up. Maybe not everything at the same rate, but everything is going up. And look around, just about everything has been going up. I've said in the past that we will have a bit of what is like a respite in inflation. And maybe you can say that we have something like that now because the price of gasoline is going down a little bit. But ladies and gentlemen, inflation has not even started. Here, Peter Schiff says, investors need to understand that the game has changed. Inflation is not going anywhere. And as I previously stated, this is not just for investors, ladies and gentlemen. This is more so for the average layman out there, like myself, like you, who is probably watching this video right now. They had an interview with a person named Brenner, and you can see that gentleman right here. And here this gentleman, Mr. Brenner, started the segment by saying that the Fed is awful at projections. Ladies and gentlemen, the thing is that the Fed is not proactive at all. They are more so reactive. So the Fed is really not making policies that are proactive. Instead, they're making policies that are reactive. And the problem with that is that reaction usually occurs too late. Usually when you react to something, it's because that something has already happened. Well, the Fed, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many top economists, they say that inflation is here to stay. And ask yourselves, has inflation gone anywhere? Continuing on, Peter noted that Powell, the Fed chair, said raising rates may cause some pain. Isn't that something? But pain for who? Inflation only causes pain for the person that earns a living through wages and salaries. But the American consumer could feel more pain if the Fed failed to act and let inflation run out of control. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the problem where the Fed is stuck between a rock and a hard place. If they continue to increase rates, which is what they're saying that they're going to do, people are going to lose jobs in masses. They're going to lose jobs in masses. And the reason for that is because borrowing money is going to become a lot more expensive. And look at all of the companies that have already projected that they're going to be laying off or firing, i.e. letting go employees here coming in 2023. Why is that? Because we live in an economy that is debt-based, i.e. that companies have to borrow money in order to be able to pay their bills and then hope to earn enough from whatever they produced or whatever service they provided to be able to pay that loan back and then keep a little bit left as a profit. All right, so we live in an economy where you always have to borrow. And I'm not saying for everyone, I'm saying for mostly all businesses, especially big businesses. And he goes on to say, I've got news for the consumer. Inflation is already out of control. The Fed failed to act. Right? They fail to act. Why? Because they are reactive, not proactive. In fact, the actions of the Fed is what created inflation to start with, and it's going to get a lot worse. Why is that? Whereas we continue reading, they're going to explain to you, or he's going to explain to you, Mr. Schiff, is something that I've been talking about for a while, that all of the money that's been created, and let's say in the last couple of years, it's not all out in the economy yet. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, they created trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. In the last couple of years, 2.5 years or so, we have created, as a nation here in the United States, we have created about 40% of all of the dollars that have ever existed since the birth of the United States of America. What do you think that is going to do to the price of things? The more money out there chasing the same amount or lower amount of goods, the more that those goods are going to cost in dollars. Why? Because the more money that's put out there without having it been worked into existence, meaning printing it out of thin air, then the more dollars that is going to cost to buy something. They're valued at less. When the Fed prints money, i.e. the banks, the government borrows, they have deficits and all that stuff, that money comes out of thin air that was never earned. Now they're going to have to take the value from the dollars that you earned, that you worked for, in order to give those dollars that were printed out of thin air, i.e. some value. And Peter continues to say that Powell expressed concern that rising wages in a tight labor market may keep pushing inflation higher. And Peter said that rising wages don't cause inflation. Why is that? Because the inflation is already there. If the money is not there, you cannot increase wages. Why? Because the money is just simply not there, ladies and gentlemen. Inflation is what's causing wages to rise, he says. Wages are just the price of labor, and prices are going up. Remember, inflation and prices is the price of everything rising at the same time, not just one thing, and that's what we've been seeing. He says that eventually the Fed is going to stop fighting inflation when the recession gets much worse, and in fact, when it becomes a financial crisis. I've been talking about a financial crisis for a while. Why? Because the writing is on the wall. And everyone's been talking about a Fed pivot. What does that mean? It means when the Fed stops raising interest rates and actually starts lowering them back down, because the financial crisis that is coming, we're not even in it yet. It's still coming. So if you think that we are in a financial crisis now, think again, because it's still coming. Once that financial crisis gets so bad, they're going to pivot, bringing down interest rates, and then inflation is going to shoot straight to the moon. I mean, it is going to be biblical. It really is. He continues to say that, no, you're always going to see an ebb and flow, but in order to really fight inflation, we would not only need much higher interest rates, which will destroy the labor market as it's starting to do right now, than the rates that we have right now, because rates need to be enough above inflation to encourage savings again. Meaning that, would you be encouraged to save money in the bank in a savings account if you were getting 6, 7, 8, 10% in return? Or would you rather just take that money and turn it into something else that's tangible? Most people, when they see that they're getting a return on the money that they put in the bank, they put more money in the bank. Why? Because they feel comfortable that the return on the money that they earned, that they then put in the bank, is giving them enough of a return in order to keep inflation at bay. Meaning that if inflation is at 8%, let's say, and they're earning 10% in the bank, that means that they're comfortable. They're keeping their head above water. But people are not going to save. People are not going to save money unless they can earn real interest, meaning that they can get money back that's above what the inflation rate is. Because rates need to be above inflation to encourage savings, he says. And our savings rate is basically at record low, and it is. And consumer borrowing is at a record high, and that is as well. He says you're not going to fight inflation unless you get cuts to government spending. And do you see government spending happening anytime soon? And finishing it off, he says, we are going to be living in a high inflation environment for the foreseeable future. Rates are not going back to zero, but they're still going to be negative in real terms, meaning that the rates that the Fed is going to put out is going to be a lot lower than what inflation really is, which means that you will be losing purchasing power every year for the foreseeable future. I see that happening for about the next 10 years, ladies and gentlemen. So how do you prepare for this? How do you prepare for this? You prepare. The food that I bought last year is about half of what it is this year, believe it or not. Just take a look at your pantry. Take a look at something that you bought last year. Look at it. See if you go buy it again. See if, first of all, the size is the same. If you bought a can of this or that, are you getting the same number of ounces that you did last year? And if you are you paying more than you did last year? Inflation is here to stay. He says that you have to invest in real businesses that actually have earnings and pay dividends. And that's exactly what having a full pantry is. it's not a business, but it does pay dividends. Why? Because it keeps you from having to spend those high prices of today that you could have gotten yesterday or last year. Same thing for next year. The high prices are high now, right? But think what they're going to be next year. It's already being forecasted that they're going to be a lot higher than what they currently are. So prepare, get everything that you need, that you know that you're going to use in the foreseeable future. Make sure you have a stock pantry that you keep full and you fill in the gaps. Whenever you need something, see for them to go on sale. Because remember, today's sale prices are pretty much last year's regular prices. And that's going to be the same story going forward. Peter said he agrees the Fed is going to ease, but that will be a mistake. And why will that be a mistake if the Fed eases? Why? Because it will create even more inflation, even more funny money borrowed into existence that was never really worked into existence. It's not gone far enough. The problem is it left interest rates too low for too long. It already expanded the money supply. So the money supply has already been expanded. It just has not all been realized in the economy. And that's what we're going to see for the years to come. And think of the $2 trillion bill that was just passed. That money hasn't even been put into the economy yet, ladies and gentlemen. We are not seeing anything compared to the amount of money that was printed in the last 2-3 years, and that's yet to come. So he said it already expanded the money supply so much that we haven't even had enough price increases to catch up with the previous expansion of the money supply. Just what I explained to you all. So even if the money supply is growing more slowly, it doesn't matter. There is so much inflation, i.e. money, already in the pipeline. And the only thing that was keeping our inflation lower is the fact that the dollar was rising when everyone thought that the Fed would quit hiking. But now the dollar is falling. That is going to add fuel to the inflation fire. Why is it that the dollar falling in value is going to add fuel to the inflation fire? Because, ladies and gentlemen, if the dollar is falling in value, it takes more dollars to buy the same thing. And he says, I think it's going to burn a lot hotter in 2023. But the economy is going to cool off even more as inflation heats up. And that's a no-win situation for the Fed and for the country, unfortunately. And we are in a no-win situation. This is why the government, i.e. the Federal Reserve, have been working on a CBDC, centrally banked digital currency, for so long now. Because they know that the system by which we are now monetarily governed by is falling and it will fail. Just like every single fiat currency that has ever existed in the history of mankind has failed, the Federal Reserve note will fail as well, ladies and gentlemen. You know why? Because it's all fake. It's just a system that was created to keep you poor. Having said that, I have like maybe 2 more videos to put out today. 1 more for sure. And I also have a live stream that I'm going to do later on this afternoon that I think is very important. So I hope to see you all there. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. God bless every one of you.